We don't have too much on the docket this year, so I feel that we can be very flexible, obviously, with the time we're utilizing or any discussions that we have today. But just like every other year, this is an open forum for anyone to come in and discuss the impacts of peerage in Belegarth and what we want to see for the coming year, and opportunities for us to reflect and reevaluate and correct if needed. So just an open forum, as always. Beyond that, though, does anyone have any questions, concerns, or thoughts before we get started? All right. It's just like my work meetings. It's like, yes.
Yeah.
All right, we're good.
How do you want to do like next to speak? Do you want to do a comment in the chat? There's a raise hand feature here.
Let's do a comment in the chat. I think that's an easier way to navigate who is asking the next question, and then we can follow it in that order. If that sounds good for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, whenever yeah, thumbs up. Leda, you're not DOP.
I missed that. What did I say?
Are you DOP now?
Oh, yes. I'm impersonating him all weekend.
Master Sir DOP, pleasure. You look lovely. Thank you. Well, great. Well, we only had one topic officially submitted, and we're going to move forward with that, and then we'll do an open discussion from there. I had another topic, but it was definitely more of a see kind of where peerage is at sort of topic, but we'll open the floor. So officially, 10-minute timer will start after the topic is presented. Squire Anya, right?
Yeah, hi.
All right, you have the floor, my friend.
It will not take me 10 minutes because mostly I've spent my stepping out of my lane points for the day already. But I've been thinking a lot about in Stygia we do like lordships and land giving for members of our realm. And just started thinking about how uncomfortable it makes me because we're on Indigenous land. This is not our land to give away, even if we're doing it in a, LARP game. I think it's still important that we acknowledge that we are on Indigenous land. So I kind of wanted to open up a discussion about doing land acknowledgements as realms because we're all on Indigenous land. And I don't know, just how people feel about it and how we would go about it. Is it necessary? I think yes, hopefully is the answer, but I know Antoinette and I kind of started talking about it yesterday. But I want to talk about it more with everybody and see how y'all feel about it in your realms and how we would go about it. And the best ways, I guess, to just be good stewards of this land that we do not possess.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much for the question. I think that's definitely something to go over. I do have clarifying questions on that, and obviously everyone, just for a quick reminder, we're using chat to jump in for comments. So go ahead and just hit next and or click next, and then we'll go through everyone that's in there. But Wrath currently does participate in land endowments, obviously very much as a role-playing element, very much as kind of a potential acknowledgement of that person's title or that person's, kind of presentation to the sport. And, just like with medieval histories, bestowing lands for people to kind of up their title a bit, that's kind of the whole point. I personally agree. Like that is something we should be very conscious about, is how we are talking about distributing quote unquote lands to people in a community such as this, as a nonprofit such as this. Wrath has moved away from like physical land placements. I think that used to be a thing back in the day, to lands in fantasy novels. Very, very much in the recent memory is like lands from the what was it, Song of Ice and Fire series, right? So, and I don't know if that's like in my mind that is a good move away from, you know, like here's actual physical land you can find on a map of the town that you're in. That's your land, you know. That seems more problematic. But moving towards fantasy lands, which don't actually exist or don't have grounding in the world that we currently live in, seems like a good, easy replacement. That is on a fantasy map, right, to some degree. So you can be like, yeah, it's right over there. You know, so you can have that fun blurbiness, excuse my term, without having the impact of what we're trying to do in the real world. But that's just where Wrath is at. But I agree, like we should be very, very conscious about the idea of distributing lands, and if it is going to be lands, it is a fantasy element that is not connected to the real situation. Anyone else want to jump in? Well, hi everyone for coming in. Good to see your faces. All right, go ahead, jump next person.
So full disclosure, I am a landed baron in the realm of Shannara, so that's FYI. I think the goal of doing awards and recognition like that is for is more like as an award of recognition, like an acknowledgement that you've done so much service or whatever it may be. There are probably other ways of going about that, and it would be a bummer to delete that without replacing it with something else. I think it's important to recognize work that people have done in some way. Yeah, so recognize your people is a good thing, I think. Not necessarily, I don't think it has to be with land, even though we're in fantasy grounds, I think.
All right, any follow-up thoughts on that? Anyone else want to jump into that conversation? All right. Well, on a personal level, I'm really happy to push for that. You know, if we're seeing any kind of individuals, you're like, hey, that'd be a really cool idea. Like, I'm happy to jump in and be like, you know, that's a great idea. We should move on with it, but let's look at what kind of land I'm thinking of and non-reality based focus on that. Because I agree. Like, endowment of lands is a really cool thing to give to people. You know, for their service, for their accolades. And I don't think that should stop, but definitely the context of what lands they are. Yes. All right, next, we have the next comment.
I should say that the map for our lands for Shannara is not exactly world accurate, if you get what I'm meaning. So it's still kind of fantasy-esque, like town, like geographically it's very similar, but that's about it. Like the locations of places is kind of world real, mostly not. That's all I have to say.
All right, next comment.
Yeah, that gave me a really good idea. I was just thinking about, as you all were talking, like it would be really cool if we made a map that is can mildly correspond to, local features and stuff, but just having a map that we can say, this person owns this portion of the map that doesn't really correspond to anything in the real world. I like that idea a lot. So thank you for the input and the assistance. And I think I'll talk to the realm members about moving forward with something like that. I think it would be also a cool way to be able to do some kind of I'm going to fight this person for this land kind of thing without it being corresponding to land that does not belong to us. So I like that a lot. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Anyone else? Any other thoughts, concerns, questions? All right. Obviously, I think there's a lot of opportunity for this idea to spread and grow. Totally down for it. So let's see how it goes. Like Shannara, that seems like a really good example. If anyone else wants to do that, it'd be kind of cool to follow. So we all have a nice template to build off of that, is mostly agreeable. Cool. So that was it. For all of our official topics that we had submitted for Peerage Council this year, and that's okay. Right? Crazy year. Topics like this generally come up more when the community's together and we can see more of the things happening within Belegarth, kind of on an eye level and day-to-day level. The one topic I did want to bring up, and it was mostly just for discussion to see where everyone's kind of feeling about it, is the inevitable influx of Dagger Here players, and us merging more and more with other LARPs, because this is an inevitability that's going to be impacting us obviously in the next few years heavily, and potentially even more so after that point. And I just kind of wanted to open the floor if anyone wanted to make comment on it, have questions, concerns, thoughts. And see where we're kind of at on this peerage level of saying hello to our new LARP friends and having them join our community, and the impacts that might bring. All right, Internet, you have the floor.
I think she got bumped. Oh, there she goes.
She hit the wrong button.
Welcome back.
So, as the person who's sort of been dealing with all of these new people as they show up, peerage wise, and because I'm a nerd, and I'm gonna cover this later today, most of the Knights lines that we have, or peerage lines that we have now, aren't going to change a whole awful lot. So a lot of the knights in the realms that we obtained in Michigan, because most of the realms that ported over were in Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, and Florida. So as strange as this is going to sound, most of the peers in those areas are already parts of lines that are part of Belegarth. Just because when we went, all right, we're no longer Dagger here, our Knights lines already existed. So, especially like the one that most of us sitting in this chat are a part of, we, the line that most of the Western peerages comes out of Middle Earth, which was a Dag realm, and that line continues to be both Bell and Dag, as does a lot of the ones of people who will be coming over or who have come over. So lineage wise, it's just gonna add a bunch of people we haven't kept track of into lines that we have that already exist. I think what it is gonna do is sort of change how the Midwest looks at peerage a little bit more than it's gonna affect out west. because we already look at it a little bit differently than they do, like squireship wise. Like in the Midwest, it's like, here's your 2 years, you've done all your stuff, all right, cool, you're a knight. And that's kind of a common process in the Midwest, but with the addition of all of these knights and squires that are now Bell, who were Dag, Dag does squireships a little bit differently, and they often take a little bit longer. And so I think it's going to change a lot of like how the Midwest looks at peerage, and not so much, and like that may change regionally there, and I think that's gonna affect what happens. I think that's gonna be the biggest effect of what happens. So like this style of meeting, we've never had one at Oktoberfest or Geddon or Spring Wars, because people were very worried about how it might go over. But I think with the addition of all of the new peers from realms that are now Bell, it might actually go over a lot better than we think, or that it may have before. So like, I don't know. I think our biggest issue isn't going to be like integrating peers. I think it's going to be our event sizes are going to go from 200 to 300 people to like 400 to 500 people or more, and events that haven't ever had a population that size, like Spring Wars and Armageddon, and the distinct possibility that Ragnarok may not be an event anymore, and that Armageddon may become very large very quickly.
That's great. Thank you for your perspective on that. Anyone else want to jump in? Question, and this is a little bit of my own ignorance. Does Dagger here, to anyone's knowledge, have anything similar to the peerages of Chronicler, Artificer, and Seneschal? Or is that going to be like a new concept for Dagger coming over?
Go ahead and unmute yourself, Crash.
I was a Dag fighter for the first like 3 years of my foam fighting stuff. They don't really have anything like that. They expect the knights to do a lot of that stuff, and they haven't really done a lot of that stuff. So I feel like the guilds are going to be a new thing for a lot of them. So it might open a lot of new pathways for people coming over to find a new way to, join peerage.
That's great. If that's the case, that's great. Antoinette, you raised your hand?
On a like game-wide level, no, they don't. But within a lot of the units, they do have something similar, but it's usually on a unit level, or on a realm level, and not like on a cross the whole game sort of level. So for a very long time, the Middle Earth lineage had non-combative peerages. Most of the people, I only found out about this very recently, most of the people who had one of those no longer participate in the sport. So I can't go ask them any questions about how it worked, but apparently that was a thing for a while in some places, but as like a overarching thing, like we have it, no.
That's super interesting. Kind of excited in my head about it is that we'll potentially have this opportunity open door for a lot of people who might not have had that opportunity. And Dagger here, being able to go down a mentorship or training pathway into peers that is non-combat focused, which in my mind is super exciting to have that opportunity. Cool. Anyone else have any comments on that line of thinking specifically? Okay. I on a personal level as a knight, I have been seeing some, and it's all unofficial stuff, but some kind of kickback about change that we might be seeing, or trying to implementation of change with Dagger here moving over to Belegarth, and just on a personal level, and this is just how I feel, but I kind of want to see where everyone else is at. Um, I believe that's something that should be embraced, obviously, uh, to a moderate extent. We shouldn't be kind of all of the new folks coming in and asking questions and seeing if change does want to become a thing or doesn't want to become a thing. With a lot of the recent legislation trying to pass for like metal helms or things along those lines, obviously those discussions should just still be had. But we have a democratic system for a reason. We should try to uphold that core concept, right? When we have new folks coming in, and they'll, eventually get, speaking rights and voting rights. We should honor these new folks coming in once they do get those opportunities, to not kind of bash them because they're newer to Belegarth. But this is my 2 cents. Antoinette, go ahead.
So when the voting realms went, hey, let's let them become speaking realms, most of the DAG realms that came over were actually like, no, you have a process, we should follow that process just like everyone else who had to follow that process. And most of them didn't care that they were going to have to wait a year to become a speaking realm and then another year to become a voting realm, because they never had that opportunity before. Like, the amount of times that we've gone back, like the board of directors has gone back to our chat and been like super confused over why a bunch of realms are like thanking us for answering an email. And we have to stop and think about it. It's because their board of directors didn't answer their emails. And their opinions didn't matter. So like when one of them who is non-binary came in and went, hey, your language around like garb is really binary, and as a non-binary human, I don't like, it's not really inclusive. And we went, hey, you're right, and we fixed it. And that all passed. The pushback I saw during the last voting period about change is the same pushback we see every time leather, armor, weight, chain, weight, metal helms, and gauntlets come up in discussion. And it comes up in discussion, if I went back and looked, probably at least every 2 years. So it wasn't because we had a whole bunch of new diagrams that were like, hey, let's make sure we can have shark mail and let's make sure their metal helms pass. It was literally like, these things happen pretty consistently that people try to get them to pass. That really hasn't changed, and I think the only reason it kind of was people were being slightly more loud about it was because they're like, I get that we have all these new realms, but they should follow our rules and not try to change it to play a game that isn't us. And I'm like, that's really not what's happening. To be completely honest, this happens every 2-ish years. Sometimes, I mean, shark mail has come up every year for the last 3 years, and it's failed every year for the last 3 years. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens when they become voting realms, because it will sort of change the balance of where the voting realms are, because we have a lot of Western realms because Cali got really big really fast, but now it's going to sort of balance itself back out because the Midwest has gotten really big really fast again. So it'll be interesting to see, A, how many of them decide they want voting rights, and B, how that happens when they get them.
Yeah, 100%. All right, anyone else to add to that? Well, guys, this might be the shortest Peerage Council in the last 5 years. So I'll give you back 40 minutes of your time. Do whatever you want. Thanks for coming, everyone. I know it's super short this year. Hey, that's A-okay. If we don't got much to talk about, we don't got much to talk about. That's A-okay. But we'll keep checking in, and we'll see you at the Digital Bifter. That's Digital Bifter, right, Anna? Yes, everyone nod for that. No idea? Head shake? Cool. All right.
No.
No.
Sorry. Apologies.
You're okay. You're
I'm
good.
proceeding forward. I have a quote for the site, and I'm proceeding forward with contract. So unless COVID, always has a chance of changing the plans, but I would be prepared for in a live event that requires vaccination and will need masks for indoors and field fighting as at a minimum. And please tolerate that the situation may change based on conditions. Please tolerate that things may need to be updated as conditions change, and don't hold me to anything because I'm not giving you an official announcement right now. I'm just letting you know I'm the person who plans it, and that's where we're at right now.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Was that the thing you wanted to talk about, or was there another thing you wanted to talk about?
There was one other thing I wanted to talk about, actually.
Go ahead and jump in, and then we'll get the next topic after that. Ha! You're stuck with me for another few more minutes.
Okay, this is a weird one, and I should have probably been thinking about this longer and been slightly more prepared for it. But I think it's just general tips for when we all go back to playing with each other in person after this sort of whirlwind of a year and a half or however long it's been. I think one of the things that I'm really concerned about is that we've had this crazy year where political discourse has become, I think everybody knows what I'm going to try to say without me trying to say it too much. So I guess my question is, we want to make sure that we have a welcoming environment to everyone, provided that they're following our ethical guidelines and codes. And I actually feel like because Belegarth is situated all around the United States and other countries, that we're sort of in a unique position to create bridges between groups of people who would not normally have bridges, especially at a time where mostly it seems like everybody likes to burn bridges. And so I was wondering if anybody had thought about this a lot. I don't know, maybe, I'm in Southern California. I would say probably politically I'm in a very homogeneous area where everybody more or less shares my views. But at the same time, I still worry about the fact that, at some point we're going to be playing with people from all over the country and they may not share the same views. And it's like, how do we not punch each other in the face in real life over things? Not me, I'm not going to punch anybody, but probably not going to punch anybody. But I was just wondering if anybody had any thoughts on that, or if anybody had any fears, or if you think my fear is unfounded, etc. I'll mute myself.
All right, Kaylee, go ahead. And then Crash.
So I'm currently in eastern Idaho, in Evanholds and Bethel. And practices have opened up here, and I couldn't resist the lure of fighting again. And I'm vaccinated, and it sounds like a lot of people here are, or at least pretending to be. There is not a vaccination requirement, which makes me uncomfortable. And then I know I did some digging around on some of the people in the realm just on Facebook to see their profiles. And I'm not a very confrontational person, and my method of dealing with some of this stuff has just been to not bring it up. But I know there's a lot of people in the area who don't share my views and who have posted some things like anti-masking and anti-vax and some of that stuff. And so it is something I think that's going to come up. Anna, I don't think your fears are unfounded. I don't have a solution for how to deal with that, but it's definitely something I think we're going to see in the future, and it's sort of a scary world. But that's just my input.
That was great. Thank you, Brother Crash, and then Antoinette, and then Leita, I believe is correct.
Crash, you're muted.
There we go. Sorry. So in my realm, we've had to deal with, we have a member that's been kind of going on crusades against people for things that they perceive as wrong. And the leadership of the realm started now to catch on to this. I myself have been politically opposed to most of my friends and family for most of my life, I've been a staunch anarchist since I was 10 years old. So I've had to learn to tolerate people and understand that the freedom we are given, and I think we need to try to push this to other people, where the freedom we're given through this country that gives us the right to have differentiating opinions. That's part of what makes America. That's one of the good things about it, in my opinion. There's a lot of bad things, but that's one of the good things is we have this freedom to be stupid. I think the whole anti-mask stuff is ridiculous, or the people that are like super anti-vax, it's ridiculous, but they have that right. And we can't, as a organization or even as a people group, try to remove those rights from people. That makes us the bad guy, even if we see ourselves as morally right. Because taking away their freedom is worse than having the moral high ground.
Thank you, Brother Crash. Antoinette and then Leita.
So I'm Canadian. We all know this. And well, you had a Cheeto in charge. I had a really hard time with a lot of my friends who supported said Cheeto. And I still do, because I have issues with, like, people being shitty to other people just because they look different than they are, or they talk different, or what have you. So, like, coming to events was, in fact, very difficult for me for a while, because, like, politics would come up, and I would... Sorry, cat jumped on something it shouldn't have. Politics would come up, and I would walk away, or I would purposely try to change the topic, because it was just not a... kind of like Kylie said, it was not a confrontation I wanted to get into. Oh, for heaven's sakes. But eventually, there's going to be a time where you're going to have those conversations with people who you may not agree with, and it's not going to be fun. And the unfortunate fact is, so long as their opinions aren't actively affecting, like, people at the event, like, as an event coordinator, if someone comes up to me and is going, so and so is spouting their racist, sexist, misogynistic opinions, and it's affecting the people in my area, I'm obviously going to go do something about that, right? But there's not a lot we can do besides be like, hey, dude, you signed a code of conduct when you got here. You need to shut up, or, like, go spout your opinion somewhere where it's not going to affect the people around you. And that's because, like Crash said, people have a freedom to express their opinions. They don't have a freedom, from my understanding, to run away from the consequences of those opinions. And if those opinions end up breaking our codes of conduct, then there's something we need to do about it. And that's just, I think, how we have to move forward. Like, we have a code of conduct. It is fairly robust. It could probably be more robust. But, like, I want to be able to go hit... Well, I don't hit people, but I want to be able to watch you guys go hit people eventually, and I think we have to come to terms with the fact that that may mean we may have to require vaccinations, and those people who choose not to get vaccinated, or who can't get vaccinated for medical reasons, may not be able to participate until there's something more we can do, right?
Thank you, Antoinette. Lita?
Yeah, I'm gonna cite an example that's come up in a local area, and I haven't decided all of my opinions on it yet either, and I can't figure out how to make my hand go away. There it goes. So my local realm, that's now an hour away from me, but the one I attended originally and still gone home, made a declaration that it would not require vaccinations or masks at its practice. And the leaders right to make that choice. And then its sister realm decided that it would make a public announcement in the kindest way possible. I was very impressed and grateful for it, but it publicly invited any member of that realm to switch memberships and join their realm, which had a mask and a vaccine requirement if they were uncomfortable with the realm's choice to not have one. And I definitely can see both sides. You know, the realm wasn't telling the other realm, hey, you can't do that. They were just opening an avenue for those who felt unsafe practicing without vaccinations to be able to go to a safe environment. But at the same time, I'm sitting here and I'm seeing a risk of social attack. And I'm not saying that's what the realm did, but it could easily become a place where anyone who now attends that realm that is not requiring those things can become socially condemned. And I don't know. I don't have any solid opinions on where it goes, and I don't even know how it's all going to play out since this all happened like 3 days ago. But the thought of how people are going to react to these different things is going to have, I don't know how it's going to go.
Thank you, Leda. I have my hand, and then I'm back to Anna. I work in the vacation rental industry, and I've had to really make clear when I talk to guests who want to go to Hawaii that, you know, like they'll give me a call and they're like, I just landed in Hawaii, and they're telling me that I have to have, you know, documentation that I had a negative COVID test within the last 72 hours. Like, you know, what's going on? And, you know, at that point, there's a lot where I have to make a barrier between me and the guest and say, that is public knowledge, right? You're traveling to this state. You should know exactly the requirements of wherever you go traveling during a pandemic, that there might be requirements for you to get entry or not entry. And I think largely that I believe that Anne is correct. You know, there's going to be potential confrontation with individuals who do not agree with the stand of Belegarth as a BOD or Belegarth as a nonprofit on our expectations for events. But I think the best step we can move forward, because there will always be people who don't know or don't agree, is make very clear the stance that the events are taking and why, and that it is a non-negotiable, because that is on them, that is up to them, that is their reasoning, their rights. And if, you know, and disassociate any kind of personal political bias in that statement to say, this is black and white, this is what we're doing moving forward, and we obviously will miss you, you know, but if you don't meet these standards, we will miss you, but hopefully we will see you soon, right? Be welcoming into the future. Understand that if they don't want to do that kind of stuff, then they don't have to. But that's where our event is standing. And you need to meet these steps to get the opportunity to be a part of this. You know, just because Hawaii is part of the 50 states doesn't mean that that state can't have its own local requirements. Same thing with California. County mandates are a thing. Everywhere's going to be a little different because everywhere is different, right? And I think that's how we kind of need to approach it, not only as peerage, but as adults. And I agree, like, those conversations probably do need to be heavily monitored for any kind of brigading of, like, look at that asshole, you know. And that's the sad truth, but that you know, if we really want to make sure that we give people those playing field, that even nice playing field, you know, we're not brigading them, that it does need to be monitored. But if we're going to look at a you know, as an event disclaimer, right, or heads up, that's what it needs to be. In my personal opinion, based on the work that I'm in, is like, government site says it, man, like, it's right here, not making any claims towards you, but that's the expectation. All right, Anna.
And just, no, not that I'm worried about it, but it's Anna, just for anybody who wonders. I mean, I know you guys haven't seen me in like
I'm
2
so
years.
sorry. I'm so sorry.
I don't care.
I'm so sorry.
It's all right. I always try to tell people, it's like, imagine that I am like on top of your corpse or something on the battlefield, and that's how I remember my name and think of it frequently. So I just wanted to thank everyone so much for their perspectives, because it sounds like it already has kind of been an issue in different places. And I really wanted to second something that people had kind of mentioned, which is that, we're really afraid of it sort of devolving into brigading against people or putting them down. And I want to kind of make it clear that I feel as leaders, as peerage, we do have a responsibility to uphold our ethical guidelines in a way that doesn't let us basically tolerate bullying for other people. And to be honest, and I'm in a state where we love, maybe not everybody in my state, but we love our masks. And I'm cool with them, and my practice has them, and that's what we like to do. But at the same time, I really agree, if somebody came and was whining about the mask, but they were following the rules, I wouldn't want everybody bullying them. And I think that's really important, that even if someone has a difference of opinion from me, I don't want there to be that bullying. And so I think that we're probably going to be in the position where we're going to need to sort of police that. And I agree with what you said, Rem, which is like, we want to be polite. These things are not, whatever the rules are, they're not negotiable. And we need to just kind of do our best to reduce tensions between people. And I know it's a tall order, and I apologize that I would ask this of other people, but I think that's probably something we all need to be mindful of. And remember that, like, kindness, if anybody's ever going to get convinced of, to change their mind about stuff like this, it's going to be kindness, not, being a jerk face to them. That's my other 2 cents on it.
That's great. Yeah, no, I think it was a good conversation. Thank you for bringing it up, Sir Hannah. I think it's because it was the sir, and I'm just looking at your name, and I'm like, blank. Got it. All right. All right. Marie is up next. Correct? Did you have a topic?
Oh, I just wanted to mention that I will be holding Shannara Collegium online again. And that will be, it's looking like the second weekend of November. So, yes. So tap at your little people and be like, hey, we are going to have an arts and sciences competition. Think about classes that you want to see or teach. Shark Tank might be a thing again. Maybe. Bardic, all those arts and sciencey things, all the guild things that people want to see. Yes, that's it.
Beautiful. Thank you for the update and heads up for everyone. I think that's going to be a wonderful time of year for it, for sure. All right, everyone. Any other comments, questions, thoughts, concerns, small outbursts, large outbursts, soliloquies, monologues? Do we got anything on the table before we give you 15 minutes of your life back? All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming for, I think it's the 5th year of Peerage Council. Goodness. Maybe 6th year. Anywho, 5 or 6 year of Peerage Council. Who's counting? Obviously not me. I appreciate every single one of you for being here and taking your time to come have these discussions. I think they were wonderful discussions to keep in mind. Definitely some newer topics, definitely some very relevant topics at hand. Definitely we'll see this at BIFTR, whether it's online or in person. We will see you there. So excited for it either way. And I hope you all stay safe and have a wonderful rest of your day. Hands, so many hands.
Thank you, Rem, for facilitating.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.